So good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you're connecting from. To introduce myself, I'm Shashidhar, and I'm part of Citrix Ready technical team. And today we will talk about how to unlock the full benefit of Citrix VDI using the Stratodesk NoTouch Desktop. And we have Emmanuel Perker, founder and CEO of Stratodesk Corporation, who will walk us through this webinar. Thanks, Emmanuel, for joining us, and thanks everyone for attending this webinar today. I would like to welcome you all to the Citrix Ready technical webinar series, where we showcase how Citrix and our partners have integrated to deliver valuable products and solutions to common problems faced by our customers today. Next slide, please. Thank you. So to talk about Citrix Ready program, as most of you might know, it's like end-to-end technology partner program, which showcases and recommends third-party products, solutions, and services, which demonstrate compatibility with the Citrix products. So the customers can navigate to citrixready.citrix.com, find the solutions or find the products that they are looking for, and they could make their purchase decision easily by visiting this. So to get more information about the Citrix Ready program, you could navigate to citrix.com/partnerprograms/Citrix Ready. So we have listed a lot of combination of products and the latest compatibility with which the Citrix products have been verified with and the partner products with, so you could easily find them here. So before we start the presentation, I would like to mention that if you have any questions during the webinar, please use the question panel on the right-hand side, and we will take your questions in the Q&A session at the end. So without any further delay, please welcome Emmanuel. Emmanuel, please.
Hello, good morning or good evening, everyone. Thanks very much. This is Emmanuel Perker speaking, founder and CEO of Stratodesk. Just a quick intro for those people in the audience who might have not heard of Stratodesk before, even though that's unlikely. We have been established 2011. We're San Francisco based, just recently opened another office more in San Carlos, which is closer to Silicon Valley. We have also offices in Europe. That's actually where I'm from. If you wonder where the accent is from, I'm from Austria, but have been living in the San Francisco Bay Area for a long time now. What Stratodesk does is basically a thin client operating system and a management software, but without the thin client hardware. That's basically what we do in a nutshell. Operating system and management in a hardware. Now you might wonder, okay, what's the point? I still need the hardware around the software, right? Absolutely true. So on the slide, very important, repurpose your PCs, laptops, thin clients into thin endpoints. That's basically what we do. We sell our software under this name, NoTouch Desktop. That's our product for any kind of hardware, any referring to existing PCs, mainly business PCs, of course, mobile devices, laptops, and thin clients. There are so many thin clients out in the world where maybe people are not happy with the operating system, with the way it's managed, or simply support is already EOL'd. The devices are EOL, so the NoTouch Desktop software are a great upgrade to these machines. And when we talk about repurposing, I mean, repurpose can mean anything, right? We are talking specifically about making these machines a Citrix endpoint. That is what we do, what has been, and now why I'm using has been our main only business for years is the reason will be in the next slide. It's all about Workspace Hub and Raspberry Pi, but let's leave it for now here. Repurposing PCs, operating system, management software, convert any PC into a Citrix endpoint, a secure managed Citrix endpoint without going through all these hassles about Windows. And you know how this is when you keep existing Windows instances out there. You have different hardware, different versions of Windows, you need to patch them, antivirus, etc., etc. So the really interesting and new portion that came in recently, about almost 2 years ago, is the Raspberry Pi. Many of you might be familiar with the Raspberry Pi as being, say, a motherboard, a very inexpensive motherboard for enthusiasts, but I'm pretty sure everyone here has heard that Citrix has taken up the Raspberry Pi and invested a lot into making Citrix receiver working on the Raspberry Pi. So, you know, as there is a Citrix receiver for Android, for iOS, for x86, Linux, Windows, there is also a receiver version that specifically works well on the Raspberry Pi. And since the Raspberry Pi per se is just a motherboard, certainly somebody needs to build a box around it and create a thin client type device out of the Raspberry Pi. So that has happened. That was announced last year at Synergy. There are great partners out there, N-Computing and ViewSonic. Both are using software based on the Stratodesk NoTouch OS and NoTouch Central Management. So even with these features that you see on the slide, most notably the Skype for Business redirection, there is also dual monitor. I will talk about that in a minute. And the H.264 is very interesting because everything you send to the Raspberry Pi in H.264 can be decoded in hardware. So it means the CPU, even though it's a low-cost device, a low-power, low-cost device, it can play 1080p 60 frames. So this is amazing. If you look at it and have a chance to get your hands on such a device, it's amazing. Try it out. So, pardon me. What's now the thing with the Workspace Hub? You might have seen this announcement recently about the Citrix Workspace Hub, that there is much more than just being a thin client. Much more. Like last week's announcement mentioned the Citrix casting session roaming, that essentially you can walk up to a Raspberry Pi based device with your mobile phone. The mobile phone will exchange data. Pardon me, will exchange data with the Raspberry Pi, and your Citrix session then is suddenly on the Raspberry Pi. So without going into the details of the Workspace Hub and this new functionality that is upcoming, the most important thing to know is the Workspace Hub is based on the Raspberry Pi, very inexpensive, but it is a full enterprise terminal. It comes with enterprise-grade management. It's an amazingly stable platform. If you think about the hardware, I mean, there have been 15 million motherboards sold, right, of the Raspberry Pi. That's an amazing number. So it's an amazingly stable platform. Many machines out there, same firmware version. It's really an amazingly stable platform. So the Workspace Hub, think of it as a next generation endpoint device that certainly can do things that today we know as thin client, like connect to a storefront service, launch a browser, point your browser to a storefront or to any other web page. This is all what the Workspace Hub can do. So again, the Workspace Hub, new announcement by Citrix, happened last week, has been shown already at Summit and partly even at Synergy. But in this presentation, we are not directly focused on the Workspace Hub functionality. I'm sure there will be other presentations in the future. The important thing for you to know is that the Workspace Hub functionality is being added to NoTouch OS. So if you buy a thin client from N-Computing or ViewSonic today, a Raspberry Pi based thin client, it comes with an operating system. You don't even have to worry about it. You don't even have to know that this was made by Stratodesk. You just go to N Computing, you just go to ViewSonic, you get their machine, their $100-something endpoint, plug it in, launch it, and run it, use it as a thin client, and in the future also with the Edit Workspace Hub functionality. Now, I just 10 seconds ago, I said you don't even have to know about Stratodesk. You just get the device. Now, why would I then speak to you? Makes no sense, right? Well, actually, there is something that's really, really important. The main benefit about knowing about Stratodesk is that you can use the same software with the same look and feel and the same management paradigm also on existing PCs. So that gives you this unbeatable combination of getting a low-cost software endpoint for your existing PCs, as well as a low-cost yet highly powerful endpoint that's hardware based on the Raspberry Pi platform from our OEM partners. Now, certainly, when we speak about enterprise, I mean, that means security, that means manageability, scalability, but also if you think about healthcare, Imprivata, we have full support for Imprivata, fast user switching, fingerprint, or even the more fancy things that Imprivata has to offer, e-prescription, confirm ID, it's all supported. Now, don't worry, I just have a few slides. The main time in our webinar will actually be a live demo. So we just go through a few more slides and use it as some kind of basis later on for a discussion. Again, if you have questions, just use the question functionality of GoToWebinar to post your questions. I will make sure we have at least, say, 15 minutes to go over these questions. So keep in mind, NoTouch OS is based on Linux. It's actually our own Linux distribution. It's not based on something like Debian, Ubuntu, SUSE. It's actually very different. If you think about Linux, and those people who know Linux, they might have a rough idea. You log in, you know which files to edit, for instance, for setting a static IP address. Most of these things that you know from other Linuxes won't work on NoTouch. And the reason is because we have built our own configuration mechanism that stores its values in its own parameters and values in its own space, then generates the necessary configuration files automatically using a template mechanism. And we have also rewritten or very much modified key portions of the system, like how it boots up, how it is actually stored. So it's never stored as a real file system. It's always stored as one firmware image and booted out of that image. It's actually much more like you would expect a zero client to be than a traditional thin client. And apart from the obvious manageability benefit that you can be sure that even a knowledgeable administrator with all the passwords, I mean, being perfectly legit, but going there and writing something like yum install or apt-get install something, it messes up your consistency, right? Because you have, say, 10,000 machines and on 100 somebody has installed something. So we actually protect against that. Now, don't worry, there are plugin interfaces how you can roll out something, a legit application or a legit update to the system. But we maintain consistency in a way that's unseen otherwise. And that, of course, eliminates a lot of attack vectors that are present on a regular Linux. So it means if you hear something about a Linux security hole, something in the Apache web server or whatever, it doesn't apply at all to NoTouch. So pardon me. So One other thing is that NoTouch is hardware agnostic. I mean, I just mentioned it's Raspberry Pi as well as PC. Now that already tells you a lot. You know, the Raspberry Pi is ARM based. So if something runs on PC and ARM, that means it's highly portable and highly multi-platform. Yes, that's one thing, but it's also highly hardware agnostic inside the PC world. In fact, what we do is we have one software image where we can sort of exchange the kernel and the drivers. Imagine some kind of layering model where you have a hardware dependent layer, and on top is some kind of application based operating system layer with a Citrix receiver. What that means in practice is we can run the latest Citrix receiver even on very, very old machines, on machines that are 10 years and older. And the reason for doing so is we simply build an image with a very old Linux kernel that adapts very well to the machines of its era, of its time. Now, obviously, at some point there are limits. These machines might be too slow, they don't have enough RAM, whatever, might be some features, some extended features that won't work. Yeah, could be, but in general, it works really, really well. You can go out, install NoTouch, live boot it from USB or install to hard drive on pretty much any business PC out there, being 10 years old or very new. So that's one thing that sets NoTouch apart from any other solution out there, is this wide hardware support, because we can build the OS with different hardware and driver layers. So moving on to NoTouch Center, and I will keep this now really, really short because you will see this live. NoTouch Center management software can manage thousands of machines, put them in groups, uses inheritance, manage certificates. Obviously, I mean, you would expect that it can do so, but the way we have made it, it's really easy to be done, and it's all browser based. So wrapping this up, the PowerPoint portion of the presentation is that NoTouch Center is the first and only management software that enables a truly mixed environment, meaning ARM-based, Raspberry Pi-based machine, x86, bring your own device. You know, you can send out USB sticks to your end users. They can boot their home machines into NoTouch, making sure there are no keyloggers on their Windows installations, or you install it corporate grade on the hard drives of your existing PCs. So NoTouch Center does everything. And so we already mentioned the Workspace hub, which takes what has been known the HDX Ready Pi. Yeah, I didn't mention this. You might have heard about the HDX Ready Pi. So Workspace hub is next generation of HDX Ready Pi because of these exciting features: the Citrix casting, session roaming, all these things. Wonderful. So I promised a short PowerPoint presentation. Here we are. Let's move on to my demo setup. What is here on my screen? I'm running our management software. This is a virtual appliance. So this can be cloud-based, and in fact, more and more customers are using this as a cloud-based installation. And when I say cloud-based, do not confuse this with, say, the Citrix UEM efforts that you have most probably heard about and read in the configuration. So XenMobile Citrix UEM does manage the Workspace Hub, can manage the Workspace Hub. This, of course, will be a part or will be base of many other webinars that Citrix will be doing and announcements. So here we just focus on NoTouch Center, which typically is an on-premise solution, but also available to be run as a cloud. I mean, it's an OVA. So you download it as an OVA or VHD, you run it wherever you want. It's basically another Linux system, and it contains NoTouch Center already pre-installed. So it's really ready to go. If you look at NoTouch Center here, it's just my Firefox browser that I had pointed earlier before we started to my virtual appliance. NoTouch Center main screen, you see it's a very pleasant GUI. We have really made sure the GUI looks nice, and it should be easy. That was one of our design goals. It should be very easy for a system administrator to get into this. And also, if you haven't worked with that for, say, a few weeks, and you get back here and you still know what is going on. You don't have to be constantly in training for NoTouch Center. And the reason why this is so important is, first of all, of course, we don't want to make you study 4 hours just to get up and running, but also because this system is meant to take endpoint pains away and endpoint hassle and endpoint worry. So it might well be that you set up something, but then for weeks you might not have a reason to log in here because everything works. So NoTouch Center, wrapping this up, browser-based software runs in this OVA. You can download it, can run it. The machines, the endpoints out there running NoTouch, however it is configured, there are hundreds of possibilities how this might look like. This is just an example. Connect to NoTouch Center using HTTPS, fully encrypted. They show up in a group hierarchy. So I have a very simple group hierarchy here. I've just made one subgroup that's called WSH, whatever that means. I guess it means Workspace Hub, but whatever it means, let's not worry about it. And one endpoint is here, NoTouch Desktop. I'm just using a default host name. And now, what does this screen tell us? So I really like to look at it just the way it is. These parameters that you see here, these parameters are how you interact with your NoTouch installation. And why is this so important? Because we are talking about Linux-based endpoints, right? So I don't want anyone to be scared in terms of, oh, I don't want to learn Linux or whatever. I have enough hassle with Windows, so please not. Not at all. This is much easier than Windows. Much easier. There is no hidden registry, no shell. I mean, there is a shell obviously in Linux, but as well as in Windows, but you don't have to use it. You don't have to use SSH. We have SSH, but believe me, we turn it off. By default, this is off. Why? Because you don't need it. Everything you want to set, you use these parameters. See, I click, without explaining too much, Citrix options goes deeper, more and more exotic, sort of whatever you want to switch on. These are the policies. And interestingly enough, if I log in locally, say I'm a system administrator and I know the password, so I can go in, I can click on this and see how similar this looks like. It is pretty much the same. So that means no matter if you use NoTouch Center or not, if you're locally working on the system or setting a policy that applies to 20,000 machines, look and feel is pretty much the same. The only big difference that we see here is this checkbox. If we compare with the client view, there is no checkbox. Now, why is the checkbox there? Very easy. See, here is a group. The group is called My Clients. That's just how I have set it up. In group settings, we find the base policies for this group. And here we have two configured connections. Connections meaning profiles, things that are set up for an end user to be used. If we don't do this, if we don't set up a Chromium connection, the end user isn't able to run Chromium. So just because Chromium or Firefox are in our operating system image, that doesn't mean end users can go out and browse the web and do something they shouldn't. Definitely not. The system administrator has full control. The system administrator sets it up. So let's click on, say, for instance, the Citrix connection. Now we say connection mode, Citrix storefront. That looks really good. Interestingly enough, why is this set? Let's not worry about it. But now let's go here. And again, this is set. Interesting. Why is this set? So what it means, a very, very simple thing. It means the value has been set exactly here in this group at this level. It basically means there was a willful action by a system administrator to set this value. All the others are inherited, or in this case, as we are a top level group, right, there is nothing above us, system defaults. So if we now go into this subgroup Workspace Hub, click on the group settings in here, Citrix Desktop, see storefront is still the same, and even our URL is still the same that we have had above, but no checkbox because it's inherited. As simple as that. Now this is live. If we go in here and say we mess this up, no worries, it's just a demo setup. If I change something in here, I can go down to the Citrix Desktop, click on the Citrix options, and see the value is different. Now, the moment the client out there checks in, it gets these parameters. So why is this important? It's the management paradigm. You use the groups and the inheritance. This works really, really well, scales up to whatever, 5-digit installations, 10, 20, 30,000 machines. It's not a problem to be managed with that paradigm. And again, I'm just speaking about the paradigm. I'm not speaking about the technical scalability, because obviously, I mean, a database, it's just a few rows in a database. That's not the problem. It's also about the way of thinking, of how a system administrator or CIO looks at this and says, yes, I know exactly what has been done. I know exactly why we did it and why it is good. So start from a very generic configuration need, like everyone in my organization connects to storefront, everyone. And then you might find out that maybe you have a remote office and they are still connecting to a PNHN site. And certainly you don't want them to go to your main storefront because, yeah, they are remote, very far away. They have their own local PNHN site. So all you would do, you keep all these policies, you would just create another subgroup like I have here, my Workspace Hub. You would go into the Citrix connection. You might actually change the connection mode, but storefront also supports PNAgent, and you would modify just the URL. And of course, then you can click on all and changed and see what has changed at this level. So there are a lot of smaller things that are happening here as well. So basic management paradigm, parameters, inheritance, and the tree. Now in an enterprise deployment, if you think about my setup here that I'm showing now, obviously I want to show off, right? I want to tell you what is possible. So I want to tell you that we have a taskbar with this beautiful start menu. We have 2 configured connections, Chromium and Citrix Desktop. Yes, we also have Firefox. In fact, we have much more. If I just click on all possible connection modes, there are Firefox, see various Citrix modes. There is a lot. But would that really be your desktop? I guess 90% of people would probably say, right now, say, no, I want different wallpaper. I mean, certainly we can change the wallpaper, or you can change the wallpaper. In fact, that works really, really easy. In NoTouch Center, click on Resources, click on Wallpapers, drag and drop your wallpaper or different wallpapers, and then on the client or group basis, you can select using a select box which wallpaper for that group. So very easy. Same with certificates, by the way. They're just drag and drop global certificates, assignable certificates, whatever different use cases, but basically drag and drop them here, and it's being rolled out. So getting back to the look and feel. So you want your certificates. Yes, you want your custom wallpaper. You might want to set up a system where you don't even offer such icons. You just want a Citrix connection to come up and for end users to type in their username and their password. So you, nothing easier than that. Yeah, just go here, automatic started system boot. Here it is. You don't want the icon, control center, start menu, desktop icon, switch it off. So that means setting up your desktop is just a matter of a few clicks. You don't have to edit any files or anything else. Just use these few switches. There are different deployment scenarios. You know, some people, if you use Imprivata, then it's pretty clear how this looks like. You have a dialog box that says Imprivata login. It's waiting for badge tab or for fingerprint, and then it starts what it is supposed to start. For normal enterprise desktops, it's basically, do you want to give your users a choice? Do you want Firefox Chromium as a web kiosk? Do you just want Firefox Chromium to log into Storefront and lock it down for everything else? Or do you want the native Citrix receiver as we have seen here? So all these possibilities are just a matter of these switches. And again, they are inherited, and in a subgroup, you can simply say, well, I want to add something, so I don't want to auto start Citrix. I want the user to give the users a choice. Let's switch it on or off. So you would simply modify that one parameter. Great. So that means full control over how the desktop looks like. And keep in mind, it is still a very small Linux system, very small, very secure, installs on your PC, can override Windows, but makes a true thing, or actually zero client out of your existing PC, and you have full control over the UI without having to SSH or edit files or whatever, without all these things, just using that. Now, speaking of the manageability of NoTouch Center, I would like to take this one step further and imagine a scenario. And we have customers who had this. These are real world examples. So one thing, consider the truck, the delivery truck dumping 10,000 client machines on your loading dock. And maybe tomorrow another delivery is scheduled to appear. Or consider a different case. Consider you have over there, say you're a retailer, you have different branch offices, 3 machines in each branch office, and all over the country, maybe even abroad, international locations. how would you go over this, right? You see the group hierarchy here. How do these machines go into the group hierarchy? So that's my point, and the answer is auto assign. If I click on any group in the system, here I have only two, click on any group, I'm presented here a choice of different auto assign criteria. So most obvious thing is certainly IP address. Any machine that comes up in network 10.3. something should be put into this group. If that is what you want, then this is what you do. But there are more subtle things. For instance, what if you know that, well, all these machines that are in the 10.3 subnet, but that have a Zebra label printer connected, because these are my logistics machines and they need something different. Well, nothing easier than that. You create a subgroup for your logistics machines, print a USB ID, any machine connecting to NoTouch Center, reporting that that kind of printer is connected will be put into that group. So any machine, any NoTouch machine will look out for a host that's named TCMGR. So that is the, let me just spell this, I'll spell it here. Also, this is a very subtle way of showing you our knowledge base, which is at stratodesk.com/kb, but I'm just doing it for spelling TCMGR, Thin Client Manager. So these machines will look for that host name. So, and don't worry, there are different methods of how client and center can connect. But this is the most obvious thing. You just set the DNS record TCMGR pointing to that virtual appliance, and all machines will find it. If they find it, how will NoTouch Center assign them to groups? Using auto-assign. That's about it. And if that is not enough, scripting, JavaScript, condition expression, you can script everything. You can even use plugins like Python, that's included Lua, other scripting languages to create your own scripts. Every parameter that you see here, every parameter can be scripted, so that it gives different answers to different clients. Very cool. So there are a lot of other features about NoTouch Center that unfortunately we can not really focus. A brief overview about what else we do is given by just looking up here. So we have a built-in reporting engine that can create beautiful PDF-based reports, and yes, you can modify them. It's not only PDF, by the way. If you look at my select box, it's really important, right? People want to know. You set something up, you have whatever, 15,000 machines in NoTouch Center. You want to know which machines didn't check in because they might have been whatever, stolen or put in a closet. There's a report for that. You don't even have to design it, but you can certainly use these templates and use a GUI editor. We also do peripheral inventory. Now, this is the only thing in these webinars that I find kind of sad, because all my machines are virtualized. Yeah, I'm using, obviously for ease of sharing with you, I'm using the operating system in a virtual machine. On a real machine, you see actual hardware, actual monitor, actual keyboards, actual printers. Peripheral inventory has been there for, I think that is one of our oldest features, so we have a lot of experience with that. It was not just recently added, has been there for long, and this is loved by our customers. Real-time peripheral inventory. Now, apart from these things, reporting inventory, some people might ask, okay, where is all the data coming from? Well, you see, I'm connecting here with my browser, obviously, but everything is going, my connection is going into this virtual appliance. And this virtual appliance has a SQL-based database. In this case, it is MySQL because it's good and it's free, that's included, but you don't have to use it. It works well with Oracle and Microsoft SQL Server as well. So basically in this appliance, you can configure it to use Microsoft SQL and or Oracle, depending on your use case. So see, there is a lot information. In fact, we have an identify feature that because of the time, I might not be able to show it, but see, you get a help desk call. You instruct the end user to hit Ctrl-Alt-I for identify, and guess what? This appears up here. Out of your 25,000 machines, this is the one that just had identify pressed. So I want to conclude my official part, my presentation part, very soon. Give me kind of 2 more minutes to just wrap it up. But NoTouch Center management product, it is intended to not just remotely configure machines. As you can see, it really takes into account all these processes that typically center around endpoints. So this is supposed to be your only management and control solution for your endpoints. Right, I was showing even help desk support functionality to you. I was showing auto assign to you. There is also updating. So I don't have an update. I am already on the latest version, but this is how you simply set an updated OS image. And NoTouch Center will make sure it is brought out to all affected machines. You can assign different user roles. See, there is an icon for that. I swear I won't click on it because I could go on for hours, obviously. I like the product, just in case anyone wonders. So I could, I'm not even clicking here, different user roles. Most important thing, obviously, is to provide an easy to use yet very powerful platform for managing your endpoints, because that essentially is the point, right? It's about converting existing PCs into easy to manage, very secure Citrix VDI terminals. And by doing so, we deliver the operating system as a pure software solution. You can put it on a USB stick. You can install it on hard drives. You can PXE boot it. And the coolest thing, before I then move over to questions, the coolest thing is we have an MSI file, a Windows MSI file that you can roll out on your existing PCs, on your Windows PCs. I assume you're a domain administrator, right? It's your machinery, your fleet of PCs. You roll out this MSI file. It will, depending on configuration, it might run side by side with Windows. If you're just testing and if you're not really sure, use it in side by side mode. But if you're sure, yes, I want to go Citrix, I want to go full experience with Citrix, use it in install mode. And believe it or not, this will modify the Windows bootloader. It will reboot, it will boot the machine into Linux, it will put itself into a RAM drive, it will format the hard drive and install itself, reboot again, and suddenly this machine has been converted. We have customers who have done this automatically in branch offices all over the country. Within weeks, they went from 0 to multiple thousand machines using that MSI file. And again, every new instance of NoTouch, it boots up, it looks for NoTouch Center, various methods. I only showed you one, the TCMGR, but different ways how to connect. Auto assign puts them into groups, and from then on you are in management mode. You can update, configure, report, inventory, all these things. And last but not least, it's the same system on the Raspberry Pi. no matter if you buy ViewSonic or N-computing devices, both have specific value adds. Like N-computing has a power button with smartphone-like functionality. So essentially, your users can boot up the Raspberry Pi in a second. It works like a smartphone. It essentially powers down half of the machine, including the screen and the HDMI port, to really, really low power mode. And once the users want to, under quotes, boot it up again, they click the button and suddenly it's there. 1 second, you are there, like on your smartphone. So various value adds. But again, Raspberry Pi, same base operating system, same management, mix and match as you want with NoTouch Center. And also, if you get a feeling and for the operating system, as you probably got by just watching how this feels, it's the same on these Raspberry Pi terminals, both in computing ViewSonic. It's the same feeling. Wonderful. Now, right in time, as I said, I could go on for hours. I would like to conclude my base presentation and give word back to our organizers and have a look at the questions as they come in. Thanks very much so far.
Thanks, Emmanuel, for the presentation and the wonderful demo as well. So we do have a lot of questions that you may have to take up now. Okay, so considering the time, I'll just pick a few, and then probably you could also have a look at the questions section and then see if you want to answer some of those. Okay, so the first one goes, do you have any and leading best practices conf to apply to the Stratodesk virtual appliance, or does it come with templates to apply Stratodesk plus Citrix suggested leading best practices?
So I'm seeing the questions now. Now answering the first question, the OVA file, the virtual appliance, is delivered with a sample configuration in terms of kind of what hardware virtual hardware to use. It so that part is taken care of by simply accepting the defaults, as well as is its internal default configuration. So in terms of best practices, I mean, this I guess I'm not exactly sure in which direction the question is going, if it is more like into the how to use it as a Citrix endpoint, or if it's going more like into how to set it up generally. But I say we have reasonable defaults for everything. The basic idea is that you use what you get out of the box and refine from there. So that means you do not have to go through all these values and compare with some kind of best practice document and then set the values. The best practices are already in there. I mean, I'm certainly biased as part of the product design team and the architect of the product. So I would always say, of course, our defaults are great. But this is really one of our design goals, to come with the best practice already in there. Certainly for security, for instance, if you say, yeah, my installation should be more secure than others, there is a specific document on our knowledge base that it's simply named security that explains this. So I hope that's answering the question. But I'm happy to refine if we have time and go into more detail.
Thanks, Emmanuel. Okay, so the next one follows. Do you support biometrics for auth versus username and password? And how about SAML and OAuth?
So one thing, the first thing before I answer anything about authentication, the main thing to consider is that authentication in a thin client scenario is done by the Citrix receiver. So on NoTouch, the operating system, it doesn't give you anything besides this icon. And once I click it, it is up to the Citrix receiver for Linux to decide what is configured. Say if there is a smart card reader, we need to read the certificates, then it would say enter PIN here instead of the username. So that means we support everything that's in the Citrix receiver feature matrix. Also, speaking specifically about biometrics, I already mentioned Imprivata. So we have support for the Imprivata Proof ID protocol and API that is built in. So this would be our preferred provider for anything that's even outside the Citrix receiver. Also, the browsers can take up PKCS11 authentication as well. If you know about the security machines, the NoTouch, again, the NoTouch operating per se is not doing any kind of authentication. So you decide if you want to expose a Citrix receiver to the end user, and if so, this is then the thing that does the authentication, similar to a web browser logging into some kind of web page.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, so the next one is, will peripheral inventory give the size or type of monitor attached? Also,
Yes.
can you assign read-only access to the NoTouch Center for service desk staff?
Yes to both.
Okay, that was pretty
very
straight.
clear. Yes.
Great. Okay, so is there an option to shadow the remote endpoint?
Yes, there is. See, these are the things that unfortunately I haven't really been able to show, but if that would be a natural continuation of that identify workflow, right? So somebody calls me up, I ask who is the person, I go through these things, and here is a button for remote shadowing. So that is using VNC. So we have currently two modes, VNC applet in the browser, Java-based applet. Since Java applet support is pushed back and out of browsers more and more, there is an option for plugging in a standalone VNC viewer, as well as something I can share in terms of our roadmap is an HTML5 based VNC viewer that will be available very soon.
Okay, great.
Also, TeamViewer. We also support TeamViewer. I almost forgot. But you see, TeamViewer is an add-on. You need to buy TeamViewer. Then you can actually roll it out using NoTouch Center on these endpoints. Even the Pies. There is a TeamViewer for ARM that has been added very recently, and so you can use this. But VNC is built-in and free.
Okay, perfect. Okay, we'll take up a few more questions as we are running out of time. So maybe last 2 or 3 more. So what is the next trade show you are going to?
Wow, that's a good question. I think that should be HIMSS. At least I will go there personally. This is in 2 weeks. I don't think there is anything in between. HIMSS, which I believe it's in Vegas in Sense Expo, the Venetian. That's the healthcare. So we will actually be there at the Citrix Partner Pavilion. So definitely check us out. Go to the Citrix Partner Pavilion.
Okay, perfect. Coming back to the technical part, I think there are a couple of more questions. What about support for additional wireless cards? Is it possible to upload new drivers?
Yes and no. So with these wireless cards, see, we have a kernel 4.13 64-bit. I doubt you would find drivers that are newer than those we have already built in. Now, I mean, certainly it is Linux, it is Linux. You can certainly even recompile your kernel. You have the full rights to do so. The thing is, why I'm a bit hesitant in terms of this question is because we actually don't want to make you modify the OS. So if you really want, and if you want to embrace Linux and say, yes, I know about it, I can install my drivers. I mean, yes, but in general, most customers actually like and love the solution because they don't have to do that. And in fact, our support team is very responsive, and this is also our lifeline, right? We want to know what people are using, so just let us know. Oh, I have hit something that's very new, a wireless card where there is no driver included, then we will actually build this updated OS for you, because this is what we are. We don't have our own thin clients, right? We cannot simply like the typical hardware manufacturers, yeah, try the software, if it doesn't work, buy the hardware. We don't do that. We certainly have our Pi OEMs that we work with, but on x86 we need to make it work. That is the big strategic difference. Why with Stratodesk you are always hardware independent, hardware agnostic. We never force you to go into a certain hardware direction, and we just make it work. So let us know if you know drivers, send them to us. We put it in, very fast turnaround times, and it's the next version of the product has them included.
Okay, perfect. So we'll take up one last question before we wrap up. So is there a 24/7 support available from Stratodesk?
So yes, our basic support is email only and free. It's during office hours. However, since we have offices in Europe and in California, we cover almost 24/7 also with the free support. I mean, free support is always workload permitting, but there are additional options for support subscription plans that you can purchase with more guaranteed response times and 24/7. In general, let me, however, say our goal as a company, our growth plan is to provide a great product, a product that works with as little maintenance as possible. So our goal is definitely not to make you pay for support. I understand in an enterprise deployment, you need it. Of course, you want someone to call, guaranteed, absolutely. But the product really works surprisingly well without too much intervention. I say surprisingly, we are all in IT, right? We know how this is, but it's built fault tolerant. You know, if NoTouch Center goes away, that's not a problem. The machines have their configuration. It's kind of a valid state. So it's really built for low maintenance.
Yeah, I agree. Like, support is a bigger deal when we are in the IT sector. We got to concentrate there as well. Okay, great. So, Emmanuel, before we wrap this up, anything else you would like to mention to our audience?
Well, I say thank you very much for joining and listening. You might see on my screen right now, this is the Workspace Hub screen for those who have already seen it in live at Synergy, for example, or Summit with the QR code. This is the Workspace Hub screen. This is would be the future login. You can actually go left and right, different screens here. Use it enterprise terminal type or proximity based, etc., etc. One last thing, because I have these windows here, right? I just want to make it clear, NoTouch is an operating system. I'm running it here in a window on my Mac using virtualization. I don't want anyone to believe that this is something that runs on top of an OS and needs some kind of Windows, because then why? Yeah? Why would you do it? No, it's really meant to replace it. It goes on bare metal. It's just me who runs it here for ease of screen sharing, both software look and feel like this, or a new Workspace hub look and feel, so that's easy for screen sharing. So maybe just one last thing, as I also said, it's one management software, no matter if you run Pies or x86 or Pi in Workspace Hub mode or existing HDX Ready Pi, all the same management software.
Okay. Yep. Thanks, Emmanuel, for this wonderful presentation and taking up the time for answering the questions as well. We have many questions in line. Probably we'll pose those questions to you, and then we'll get back to the audience with the answers as well. And as I mentioned, we'll be recording this. We have already recorded this webinar, and then we will be posting the webinar as well, and then sending it across to you.
Wonderful. I'm perfectly happy to getting all the questions and have our team answer them, and then get back to the people asking, so we can definitely follow up offline later on. I say thank you very much for everyone staying in line, and thanks to you, Shashid, for hosting the webinar, and the Citrix Ready team. That's great. Hopefully soon again in the future.
Yeah, likewise. We'll meet at HIMSS, Emmanuel, soon.
Wonderful.
Okay, great. Thanks everyone for joining this webinar. We'll conclude this webinar now. Have a wonderful day ahead.
Bye-bye.